Welcome back to my channel. I'm Traben, and in this video we're going to talk about everything else I've read since the beginning of the year, other than the Fairy Loot books. I did a video a month back or so that was 7 reviews of the Fairy Loot books. I was trying to hit those pretty hard at the start of the year. Still a couple of books behind because I get one every month. But I've been reading some other stuff, had other things going on. And so I wanted to take some time to unload my cart, talk about everything I've been reading, what falls into challenges for the year, what is just, you know, for fun and for the love of reading, manga, books, etc., and just kind of quickly go through everything I've read so far this year. Now, in unloading my cart, I do know there are a few things that I just could not find at the moment. They're probably elsewhere for different challenges and things, but I'm doing my best. So this is as much of what I've read in the past few months as I can find. So let's talk about books. We'll start with books, then we'll do titles that are going under one of my challenges for the year, and then we'll just do generic everything else that I've read. As far as books I've read just for me, without any kind of other things attached to them, I have read through 2 more of the Dresden Files books. These are rereads. I'm trying to get up to book 17 at this point. I've read through 15, so there's 2 books at the end of the series that I've not looked at yet. I'm trying to build my way back up to that point, and these are books 11 and 12. Turncoat and Changes, both very strong books. Turncoat gives me very big Javert vibes from Morgan. It's a very Morgan-centric book. And then Changes is probably one of the most understated titles in all of fiction because, man, a lot happens in this book. Highly recommend it, but it is the 12th book in a series, so you have to go through all the other trials and tribulations that Dresden faces for this to really have the weight that I feel like it accomplishes for someone who has read all of the series. So I do intend, once I get done with my reread of the series, to do a Treasured Tomes video going over the whole series. For now, just know that these are some of my favorites in the entire line. I also read Can't Spell Treason Without Tea and did a review for it, so that's up on my channel if you want to get my more in-depth thoughts. Good cozy fantasy book, really enjoyed it. Not the highest on my cozy fantasy read list, but pretty close, top 2, top 3 for cozy fantasy reads in my book. Also, a good book to segue into my challenges, because this is on my 25 for 2025 list as one of the books that I owned and that just been sitting on my shelf too long. So this is part of one of my challenges for this year. Several other titles in that 25 for 2025 challenge. I think I burned through most of the comic books on that list at this point. So I've got Trillion Game, which I picked up a while back. This is a manga about 2 guys who start up a company with the express goal of becoming like the world's first trillionaires, or one of the richest people in the world. And at the beginning of the story, you know they already made it, like you know they've already succeeded, but it's going back and looking at how did they get here. It's kind of a goofy manga. It's from the same writer as Dr. Stone and Eyeshield 21. So especially with Eyeshield 21, I kind of get that humor, that absurdist comedy kind of thing going on in here. The setup of the story is kind of serious and like thought-provoking, but the way they go about doing things and the way they they climb up the ladder is all very goofy stuff. So partially comedy, partially like figuring out like crazy inventive ways to get past these different obstacles. I did enjoy it. I think I ended up giving it 4 out of 5. If you're into that kind of thing, I think it's a good read, but I know there are several people who are not big fans of this one. Ain't No Grave was also on my 25 for 2025 list. I think this one also got a 4 or 3 or 4, somewhere in there. It was fine. It just was not as genre pushing as I expected it to be, not as profound as I expected it to be. Still a little bit it definitely plays with the concepts of like morality and those kinds of things, which I expected, but not in a way that was particularly interesting or unique. I think if you're a fan of the Weird West, you'll get something out of this because it is that like Western meets magic kind of thing. But the story itself, I felt, was a little bit too straightforward for what I was hoping it was going to be. Kaya is my next title on the 2025 list. This one was very interesting. We have a post-apocalyptic world where there is this like savior character who's very like full of himself as a child, but he's narrating this story in retrospect and talking about Kaya, his like sister and protector, who he is very like is fairly bratty to in the current timeline, but in retrospect is very appreciative of her. I felt like that set up a very interesting framing device for the story, and the world itself is very interesting with a number of crazy races, a lot of tensions between the different tribes, and they're trying to survive after pretty much the entire their entire culture, their entire people have been eliminated, have been killed. And so one that was very intriguing, one I do intend on continuing. I know that my local comic book store has several more issues, several more copies of like 2, 3, and 4. So at some point I will pick up more of this, but definitely worth checking out, and I really did enjoy this one. Falling in Love on the Path to Hell was a title that I felt like has good promise, and I'm glad that it wasn't a one and done, because had this been all there was to the story, I don't think it would have been enough. But it basically tells the story of these two warriors, fighters from completely different times and completely different worlds. One is kind of felt like the Wild West kind of feel to it, gunslinger, amoral individual. And then the other person is this like honorable samurai, disgraced at the end of the Warring States period, is part of the purge of Kyushu, the Kyushu Island. So there's a bit of history that goes along with this too. But basically, these two very different characters are sucked into an island where a bunch of like sinners congregate, and they have to fight every night to stop the hordes of hell from entering Earth. But they don't really want to do that, and so they're kind of rebelling against it. They barely speak each other's language, as far as I can tell. The story is called Falling in Love on the Path to Hell, so there is supposed to be some sort of romantic undertones to it, but so far not a whole lot has developed, and I am very much looking forward to where the story is going. I will say that this is one of the more modern trends of only having 4 issues in the collection rather than the usual 6. So I'm used to having a little bit more story for a little bit more bang for my buck when I pick up a trade paperback. But it is what it is, and this seems to be a more like modern day trend of having a little bit less per volume. But I am looking forward to how this is going to continue, and it does have a very interesting setup and a very interesting setting. Helen of Windhorn was one that I wasn't entirely sure what to expect when I picked it up. Even reading the descriptions, it was unclear what this story was going to be, and I can kind of see why. It has a framing device where there is this recording of an interview with this caretaker about her time at this estate where she met Helen of Windhorn, and she's recounting all of Helen's very interesting adventures with Helen's grandfather, who is basically a Conan type character who travels to another world and has these outrageous adventures. There's a lot in here about estranged family. There's things here about generational trauma. There's things in here about like pushing yourself too hard in order to impress someone else, living for yourself. And there's also a meta narrative about the power of stories and the power of fiction that I don't think quite lands because we don't spend enough time with it. It's part of that framing device, and it's the note that we end on, but it's the one that I feel like was least powerful of the messages that were going on here. Still really enjoyed this one. I think it was 4 or 5 stars for me. I would definitely recommend picking it up if you're a fan of like the fantasy action adventure story and you want kind of a meta narrative on top of that. It was very good. And again, I went in completely blind, not quite knowing what to expect from this one, but was very pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed it. I don't want to say too much about these next titles because they are part of the TBR swap I'm doing with my wife over at Amanda Should Be Reading. So I'll just mention that I've finished them. And I'm probably going to do reviews on a few of these, so I'll let you know which ones. But come back early next month. We should be doing a wrap-up video where we talk about each of these and discuss like how successful was this TBR swap. So I read How to Become the Dark Lord and Die Trying. This one I will probably do a review for. Liked it quite a bit. I read Wotakoi Volume 3. I read Nightwing Leap into the Light, which is like the first trade paperback of the newest Nightwing run. I read The Moth Keeper. And then I read an absolute ton of Cat Gamer. So you could probably guess how I feel about that one. I also read the first T-Dragon Society book. All of those were part of that TBR swap for March. Okay, so that leaves us, I believe, with just the titles that are kind of, in between. Like things I just picked up because I thought they were cool or like were just things, ongoings that I'm reading, stuff like that. I read Alice in Borderland 3 and 4. Each of these is actually an amalgamation of 2 of the Japanese manga. So they take a little bit longer to read. This is probably one of my favorite of these kind of game-oriented manga, akin to Liar Game, in that genre that I definitely enjoy, of that gambling game manga where part of the appeal is trying to figure out how does the game work and how can you manipulate the game. We watched a bit of the live action series. We need to get back to that at some point, but I'm really enjoying this one and I'm probably going to continue reading this until the end. As far as I'm aware, it is complete and I could conceivably go out and buy the rest of the series, which I will eventually do. So this one is highly recommended by me. In that same genre, we have Kakegurui 17. This is another one of those gaming / gambling manga that I really enjoy reading. They're coming out very, very slow. I think it's because we've mostly caught up with what's in Japan, and so I might think about picking up Kakegurui Twin, which is a prequel series to this. I'll pick up the first volume and I'll see what it's like so that I get a little bit more of this fix because it's trickling out rather slow at the moment. I read Wanted and then One Piece 107. So One Piece, obviously, favorite comic of all time, favorite book possibly of all time. Definitely enjoying Egghead Island. It's a lot of crazy stuff going on right now, and I'm really getting that feeling like we are approaching the end of the story. Oda, the writer, has said that he's pretty much in the last arc, he's in the last saga of the story, which could be years away to be finishing it, but we are getting to those points where like everything is converging on one point and it really feels like the story is coming to a head, so that's very exciting. And then also I read Wanted, which is a collection of his older works, including basically the pilot manga for One Piece. I've owned this in Japanese for years and I think it just hit stateside because of the popularity of One Piece, but it was cute. It was interesting to go back and read his earlier stories and his earlier drafts and kind of see the common threads that he tends to pick up on in his writing. So if you're a big One Piece fan or a big manga fan and you want to see some of the earlier ideas of One Piece and other comics that mangaka was thinking about writing, this is a good one to pick up, and it's a pretty short read, so really enjoyed that one as well. I read Dying Inside, and Dying Inside has a playlist of songs to listen to along with it. This is a story about a girl who tries to unalive herself, but the sword she uses actually causes her to be invulnerable to damage. And so she's trying to figure out how to reverse it and get back to normal. The story did not go where I thought it was going to go at all. I think it's a little bit muddled, and I think that that's really unfortunate given its subject matter. So there are notes in here about how, you know, they're not advocating for this, and they give you the hotline to call if you're seeking help. So they're obviously sensitive to this subject matter, but I don't think the story really I don't think that's really met out in the story, where like that is kind of her all-consuming goal in the story, is to get back to normal. I don't know. It did not hit for me. It did not work for me. I think this ended up being 3 stars. It's fine. And again, I'll probably reread it with the music element to it, because it seems like that's a big draw for the book. It is written by Pete Wentz, who's the bassist and lyricist for Fall Out Boy. So I feel like that music connection is intentional, and so I'm willing to give it another shot, another read, but it really did not blow me away. It was not what I expected at all. I read Rat Queens Volume 7, The Once and Future King. This one was weird, even for Rat Queens. I don't know, maybe the over-the-top crass humor is just not hitting as it once did for me. This one just seemed like super mean in a lot of places, and it's kind of past the like most clever parts of the story, I feel. I know that I know this series doesn't go much farther than this title. I think there's maybe 2 or 3 more trade paperbacks I need to pick up. I do want to read to the end of the story. This one did end with a hook that seems like it could go somewhere interesting, but this volume in particular, its focus was just not my thing at all. I read Ultimate X-Men #1, and I believe I mentioned in my Peach Momoko overview how much I was really enjoying this series. All the back matter is still in here, which is very nice to have. So you still have all the cultural notes on what's happening within the story. I feel like this is one that reads a lot better in trade than it did in singles, because of how interconnected the story is, and how without the connected narrative, a lot of things that happen feel disjointed if you're reading them just month to month. I definitely would recommend picking it up as a trade rather than in singles. I still pick up the singles because I want to support the artist and I want to support the title, and that's where they look for numbers. But I think I'd rather read these as trades. Still a great series, an amazing Elseworld where the X-Men are basically set in a Japanese middle school / high school setting. A lot of cultural influences and the explanations to back them up, which is super cool to see in a Western comic. I read Witch Hat Atelier #13. This is my second favorite manga in the entire world. It is so good. The story is great. The art is great. The characters are amazing. The fact that it is as progressive as it is also something that really stands out to me within the manga industry, where we still have this kind of infantile humor in a lot of the high profile titles. This one is getting an anime adaptation soon. I really hope it takes off and just increases in popularity, because it is one of the best things I'm reading, like full stop. Everybody should be reading this. Everyone should take a look at this. It's amazing. Look at it. It's beautiful and great, and just an amazing story. Lastly, another one that I'm going to do a dedicated video for is Destroy All Humans, They Can't Be Regenerated. I picked up volumes 1 and 2. This is a manga about playing Magic the Gathering in 1998. which is super nostalgic for me because that's about the time I started playing the game. They're talking about like Tempest is coming out, and like that's the set that I started with. That's the block that I started with, and so it's just incredibly nostalgic. It's fun seeing the kind of over the top sensibilities of gaming manga where they're like, oh no, I play this card, and everyone's like, oh my god, applied to a game that I actually know and understand, and also in a way that's not really over the top. Like nobody is about to get, you know, their legs sliced off or get sent to the Shadow Realm or anything like that. They're just playing in a card shop, but they'll do the full like animation of like, oh, I got, you know, stabbed through the heart or whatever. And I just think it's great. That aspect of it is so wonderful. If you are a Magic the Gathering fan, the nostalgia will definitely do this for you. The story is kind of a by the numbers, middle school first romance kind of plot. It's fine. It's cute. It's nothing groundbreaking, but this has consistently been a 4 for me. Like a lot of fun to read, and those nostalgic feelings are a big part of why I feel it's so great. Also, did not know this when I picked them up, and something I'll probably mention in the video again. There are promo cards attached to the back of this book. Each one, if you get the first edition runs, there are some Magic the Gathering promos in the back, which I think is super cool. Yeah, I'll cover more of that in the video, but just a title that I've been having so much fun with, and I can't wait for the next one. It's been great. So far this year, a pretty solid reading year. I think I'm at 45 books at the moment. The ratio of manga to books is higher than I'd like it to be, but I'm working on it. I'm currently reading Dune on audiobook, and I'm reading through Before the Coffee Gets Cold. I've got a couple other titles waiting in the wings, and I'm trying to get through the Fairy Loot books as well. There are a couple of books I know I listen to in audiobook. So the Dresden Files books I listen to audiobook. I also listen to The Great Gatsby, which I've read like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times at this point. I doubt I'll do a review for that one, but we'll see. If people are interested in like more classic literature or like an English teacher's take on it, I could certainly do that. But it's good. It's a good book. Great Gatsby is one of the most like approachable ones. So if you have not read it, check it out. Thanks for coming by and joining me as I briefly talk about everything I've read so far this year. I hope your reading journey is going well. I hope you're having fun with your reads. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe so we can grow this corner of our BookTube community. And until the next one, take care. I read Rat Queens. I read Rat Queens